Hey kids, what's happening? You can't beat this weather for riding. Like 75 degrees and sunny, beautiful day. Since we're talking about riding, you know, as I was out on the road, I come up with some ideas of 7 things that a biker should never do. So I'm going to talk about that today, and these are my tips alone. You know, I've been riding for, well, when I think back of, you know, when I was a kid and started riding mini bikes and motorbikes and dirt bikes, I got at least 50 years of experience in riding. I'm not an expert by any means, never said I was, and I don't profess to be, but I can give you a few tips. Might be able to help you out just a little bit here. Number 1, my first tip is going to be, don't ever let anybody else ride your bike. You know, they can tell you that they're experienced at riding a motorcycle. They can tell you that, oh yeah, I know how to ride that thing. And you know, but take it from me. There's a pretty good chance it's not going to turn out well. I've had situations where, not this bike particularly, but where I loaned another bike out and they came pushing it back because they dropped it or they broke something, and, oh, sorry, man. Yeah, I didn't know it was, you know, I didn't know. Well, there you go. You live and you learn. You know, every bike is just a little bit different. They all have just a little bit different response to the controls. You might have to push the brakes a little harder on one bike than you do on another. The throttle might be a little more responsive on another. I know for a fact if you get on a dirt bike and you crack the throttle like you do on this Harley, you're going to end up on your rear end on the ground because the front wheel is going to come right up and you're going to go over on your tail. This thing, you can pretty much peg the throttle and it's just going to pig out and go down the road. It'll pick up some speed, and it's, I wouldn't say it's extremely fast, but it runs. So yeah, I think that the controls are going to be a little bit different. Even the controls like your turn signals, your horn, and those, just some of those simple you know, hand controls can be confusing to somebody that's never been on your bike. The shift pattern could be different depending on what kind of bike you have. There's all kinds of things, you know, even just the way the bike is configured, the way you're going to sit on it. You know, I spend a little bit of time on a sport bike, and I know it's way a lot different than riding on this bike. Same with a dirt bike, way different. So don't let anybody tell you they have experience in riding, that, you know, they can jump on your bike and take off and take it for a spin, because it might not turn out well. My number 2 second tip, I'm going to tell you, don't ever ignore your tires. The tires are what separates you from the road, and the tires are going to be very important to your ride. They're going to grip the road in, you know, whether the road's dry or wet. You're going to need good traction for cornering, and you don't want to have a blowout. So check the tire pressure. I keep a little, right by my air compressor here, I keep a little tire pressure thing for my fat boy up here, and the front tire's 38 pounds and the rear tire's supposed to be 44 pounds. So I check my air pressure in my tires. I was out on the road once and one of my tires started going low, and you could tell the difference right away. Now the other thing you're going to want to do is check the tread. Make sure you got good tread on the bike. This is a pretty new tire, so I don't have to worry. But if you're getting down there to where your tire's getting bald and you can see cords on there, you don't want to take it out on the road. You want to get a tire right now. So don't ignore your tires. It's very important. Now here's another one that I've talked about before, and you know, when you're out traveling around, you may have to park your bike in some strange places. Whether you're going to park on asphalt or grass, you should be prepared to know that your kickstand, now mine's got a pretty fair foot on there, but if you're on hot asphalt, that's not going to even be enough. That'll sink right through hot asphalt, and your bike's going to lay on its side. It'll sink in grass too. It might be okay when you park it and walk away from it, but you may come back a couple hours later and be like, what? Yeah, it'll go right over. You're going to want to have something like this. It's a little kickstand pad. It just distributes the weight of the kickstand a little better on the ground. You can use a chunk of wood. You can even use a crushed pop can or something. I know a lot of people have done that. Just crush an old pop can and stick it under there, and that'll make all the difference in the world. Now, number 4, when you're out on the road, one thing you never want to do is assume that the other guy sees you. You know, you're cruising along and you see somebody pull up from a side street, either on the left or the right, an intersecting road. Don't ever assume that they see you and that they're going to sit there and wait for you to go by. I call it defensive driving. Always assume in your head that guy's going to pull out. So be prepared for that. Whether it happens or not, always be prepared. You know, don't just run full bore, willy-nilly, not paying any attention. That's how people get wiped out. You have to be alert, and you have to pay attention to the other traffic around you and never assume what their actions are going to be. You need to assume for yourself that it's not going to be good. You know, people will change lanes. You ride along somebody, they may not even know you're there. Move out of the way, get going. One of the things I always tell people too is I've ridden with people that like to ride way over along the berm, you know, along the white line. For some reason, I don't know, they feel more confident over there, away from oncoming traffic. It's actually a little more dangerous to ride over there because you're not as easily seen when you're riding over along the edge of the road. Stay out in the towards the center line. I'm not talking about riding on the center line, but you know, in that tire lane right next to the center line. That's the safest place to be as far as where people are going to see you. Another thing you don't want to do is leave your bike unsecured. Mine, I have a fork lock. I also lock my ignition before I leave the bike parked somewhere. My brother had a motorcycle, and he just had to run in and pick up some papers at an office. Pulled his bike up, parked it in the parking lot, ran in, and he probably wasn't in the office for more than 15-20 minutes. And when he came back out, his motorcycle was gone. He didn't lock it. He didn't lock the ignition. He didn't lock, have any other means of security. I know some of the bigger bikes or some of the more modern bikes have alarm systems on them, security systems. Not a bad idea today, because it's pretty easy for somebody to hawk one of these bikes and disappear with it. So just take a second and at least turn off your ignition and lock it. Or put a fork lock on there, or put a brake hub lock on there, or something that's going to make it a little more difficult for somebody to walk off with your ride. Now, the Sturgis Rally just ended a week or so ago, and with that we saw lots of motorcycles. And a lot of the bikers that were there were unfortunately novice riders. They didn't have a lot of experience at all. You know, it's like maybe even like a husband and wife team, and maybe she hardly ever rides at all. But hey, we're going to Sturgis. Let's take some bikes out there and we can ride all over Sturgis. Well, she doesn't have experience at running those turns, those tight turns or anything. But she's going to try to keep up with the rest of the pack. And that's where the danger comes in. Don't ever ride beyond your limitations. You know, you may be out even riding with a buddy, And maybe he likes to ride faster than you. Maybe he likes to lean into the corners and knee down, you know. And if you're not experienced at that and you try to keep up, you're riding beyond your limitations. You're putting yourself at high risk for a crash. And you don't want to do that. Slow down. Talk to your buddy. Hey, you're going a little too fast for me. I can't keep up. If you want to go, fine. Just tell me where to meet up and I'll hook up with you later. Guaranteed he'll probably slow down and wait for you. But he may not like it, but he will. If you're riding with a large group and they're riding beyond your limitations, you may want to just click it down a notch and catch up with them later. It's just not worth it. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about, number 7. And, you know, these are common sense things. Come on. If you're a biker and you have a motorcycle and a little bit of brain, you can kind of figure these things out on your own. But number 7, don't drink and ride. And I'm talking about drinking a Pepsi or a bottle of water. You know what I'm talking about. Bikers like to have a beer. And sometimes they like to have 2 beers. And sometimes it goes into 3 or 4 beers. Now, I know some guys can hold their liquor. Some guys can hold their alcohol. But some people can't. And when you get back on that bike and you head back out on the road, it can kind of deter your senses a little bit. You're not going to have the reactions that you normally have. And you're putting yourself into a position where you could be in potential danger. Now, I'm not talking about even getting pulled over. If you were to get pulled over, that's that's a million times worse, trust me. You get pulled over for a DUI, you're talking about a world of hurt. There's a lot of money that comes with that, thousands of dollars in fines. There's usually jail time. I know here in Ohio, it's 3 days locked up in jail. And the fines can exceed $6,000 or more for your first offense of a driving under the influence. Trust me, you don't want that. Now, worst case scenario, you end up crashing, really getting hurt, or killing yourself. And I've been around long enough that I've seen those things happen. You know, you're out on a Sunday afternoon, you're with your buddies, you've had too many, you know you did, but they're all leaving and you're going to keep up with them. You got to go too. I mean, you got to get home, you know. So you get on the bike and you're feeling the buzz, you're a little dizzy-headed, but you hit the road anyways, and then you didn't see that stop sign, or you didn't see that car coming the other way, or you went into that turn way too fast, clipped a guardrail, and it was all over. Don't drink and ride. Those are my 7 tips for today for riders. There's probably a whole pile more that I could give you. I could keep going all day. So those are some basic tips. Really important things you should consider before you get on your motorcycle or while you're on your motorcycle. Well, thanks for watching, guys. Give the video a thumbs up. That helps promote my videos. And if you haven't yet, subscribe. I'd like to have you on board for continuing videos. Appreciate all your support. And until next time, cats, ride hard and die free.